Ata Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Agadol, Agibor v'Anora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, v'Konei HaKol, v'Zocher Chastei Avot, U'Mevi Goel Ifnei V'nehem, L'ma'an Shemo B'Achava, Melech Ozer Ufoked U'Moshiach Magen, Baruch Ata Adonai, Magen Avraham Ufoked Sarah, Ata Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechaye Mitim Ata Rav L'Choshia, Mashiv Haruach U'Morid Agashem, Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed, Mechaye Mitim Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim V'Rofei Cholim U'Matir Asurim, U'Mekayem Emunato L'Shenei Afar, Mi chamocha bal givurot umidom elach melech mimita mechaye matzmiach Yeshua v'ne'eman ata l'hachayot metim baruch ata Adonai mechaye ametim. Slach lana bina kitana. Brakatan nego Israel. Brakatan Arafei Cholim. Brakatan nego Israel. Umlachoin atadna. All tzadikim v'chasidim v'yazim v'chasira v'yapetzokim v'yogir tzadi v'yalenu. Yichem and rachamech hanel hinu v'tin sartov l'chol avodi shivayim. Brokatan misham dalsim. Shema kolinu v'elahinu who's remeli kabel rachamim ratzon tivetinu ki yashmi tivet v'ayim natan v'nach. Tzeilan v'neum yohai zeb v'tam v'shivel. Yokulam yivarach v'ram shem kamo gin tamili laved. Ose shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru, remain standing as you're able for Aleinu, page 11. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'tet gedula liotzer breshit, shelo asanu k'gri haratzot, lo samanu k'mishbechot adama, shelo sam chelkenu kachem, v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam, ve'anachnu korim, umishtachavim umodim, lifnei melech malchei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu. Kakatu b'toratecha Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed, v'nemar v'haya Adonai l'melech al kol haaretz, bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad, hu shemo Ushemo Echad. Turning to the Mortar's Kaddish, page 12. If you're in mourning or observing yard site, please remain standing as you're able. Yitgadal, V'yitkadash, Shmei Rabbah, V'yomad Divarak Yirutei, V'yamlich Malchutei, B'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala u'vizman kariv Yimru, Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevarach, V'elam Olmei Almaya, Yitbarach, Yishtabach, Yitpa'ar, V'yitromam, V'yitnaseh, V'yithadar, V'yit'aleh, V'yithalal, Shmei Dekudsha, Shrichu, Le'ela min kol birchata b'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, ta'amiran be'oma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim alinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mamav, hu yaseh shalom, alinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. All right, you may be seated. Wonderful to have you all here together. Wonderful to be together. For those of you all who are online, so great that you are able to join us as well. It's nice that it's like a regular Shabbat for the first time in a long, long time. We are now solidly into the month of Cheshvan, which, according to tradition, is called Mar Cheshvan. And some people have taken the first part of that word Mar Cheshvan, Mar being the word for bitter, to say it's a bitter month because we don't have any holidays. And those people are crazy because they don't have to prepare for any holidays and they don't have to prepare any sermons or anything that we do because Tishrei, Elul and Tishrei are very, very busy months. And it's nice to have a breath of fresh air. So I wouldn't necessarily go so far as to call it Matok Cheshvan, a sweet Cheshvan, but it does feel nice to have a little bit of breathing room here. So great to be together. We will begin to welcome Shabbat with, actually we're going to invite up Charlotte first to light candles, and then we will sing Shalom Aleichem, and then we will turn to Kabbalat Shabbat. So please rise as you're able, as Charlotte leads us in the blessing for candles.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'hadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen.
Almost said challah.
Wonderful. Yasher koach, Charlotte. And Shabbat Shalom. Turn to somebody and say Shabbat Shalom. If you're online and you feel comfortable doing so, please unmute and say Shabbat Shalom. It's really great to be together.
Shabbat shalom.
We will
Shalom.
turn to
Shabbat
Shalom
shalom.
Aleichem,
Shalom.
page 13.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Asharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi melech malachei amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu li l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi melech malachei hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzeitchem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi melech malachei hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Turning to Yedid Nefesh, page 14. Yedid Nefesh, Av harachaman, Mishoch avdach, El retzonach, Yarutz avdach, Kemo ayal, Yishtachaveh, El mul hadarach, Yeravlo, Yedidutach, Mino fetzuf, Vechotam, Adonai Ziv haolam, Nafshi cholat, Ahavatach, Ana elna refanala, Beharot la noam zivach, Asit chazek v'titrape, v'chaitalach, Shivchat olam, Vatikyechemu, Rachamecha, V'chusna, Al ben ohavach, Ki ze kama, Niksof niksaf, Lira petiferet, Huzach, Ana Eli, Machmad libi, Chushana, Ve'atitalam, Higalena, Ufros chaviv alai, Et sukat shelomach, Ta'ir eretz mikvodach, Nagila v'nismecha bach, Maher ahuv kiva moed v'choneni ki me'olam. Yadaram bai dai dai, yadaram dai dai dai, yadarai dai dai, yadarai yananai nai nai, yadaram bai dai dai, yadaram bai dai dai, yadaram bai dai, yadarai yadarai nai nai, yadarai dai dai dai, yadaram bai dai dai, yadaram bai dai 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 dai, yananai nai nai, yadarai ya ya ya, yadaram bai dai dai, yadaram bai dai 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 dai, ya dai dai ya ya, yadaram dai 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 ya, yadaram Page 15, Lechunaranana. Lechunaranana ladonai, naria letzor hishenu, nekad mafana betoda, bismirot naria lo. Ki el gadol Adonai, hu melech gadol al kol Elohim, asher biado mekerei aretz, v'toafot harim lo. Asher lo yama yasur, ki hu Arba'im shana akut bedor, ve'omar amto elavavchem, ve'hem lo yadu derachai, asher nishbati v'api, im yuva'un el menuchati. Shiru ladonai shir hadash, shiru ladonai kol haaretz, shiru ladonai baruch shemo, basru miyom liyom yeshuato, sapru vagoim kevodo, bechol ha'amim nifleota, ki gadol Adonai, hulal me'od, norahu, al kol Elohim, ay, ki kol Elohei ha'amim elilim, va'adonai shamayim asa, hod v'hadar lefanav, oz v'tiferet b'mikdasho, havu ladonai mishpechot amim, havu ladonai kavod va'oz, havu ladonai kevod shemo, seu mincha, Uvo lechatzrotav, ay, hishtachavu ladonai, bechadrat kodesh, chilu mipanav kol haaretz, imru vagoim, Adonai malach, atikon tevel bal timot, gadinamim b'mesharim, yismechu hashamayim v'tagel haaretz, Yiram hayam umelo yalo sadai vechol asher bo ay az yiranenu kol atzeyar lifnei Adonai kiva lishpot haaretz yishpot tevel betzedek ve'amim be'emunato yanai nanai ya da da na na ya da ya da da ya da ya da da ya da ya da da Page 17. Adonai malach tagel haaretz. Yismaelim Rabbi Benam Rachel Savigav Sarek Mishpat Kenchon Kiso Heshna Fanam Tele Savigav Hira. Yevish Kodesh Vasal. Ketadonai. O Havernai sinura shomei nafshot chasida miyad reshaim yatzileim or zaru ala tzadik Uishrei lev simcha, simchut tzadikim b'Adonai, v'hodu lezecher kodsho. Mizmor shir l'Adonai shir chadash, ki nifot asa shir l'Adonai kodsho. Hodi Adonai yeshua tov Livnei Adonai kiva, kiva lishpot haaretz, yishpot tevel b'tzedek, v'yamim b'meisharim. Adonai malach yirgezu amihim. Yoshi keruvim tenet haaretz Adonai b'tzion negadol. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtakavu lechad kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtakavu lechad kodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Please rise as you're able, page 20 for Psalm 29. Mizmor leDavid, havu l'Adonai b'nei Elim, havu l'Adonai kavod va'oz, havu l'Adonai kivod shemo. Hishtachavu l'Adonai becharat kodesh. Kol Adonai al hamayim, el hakavod hirim, Adonai al mayim rabim. Kol Adonai ba'koach, Kol Adonai behadar, Kol Adonai shover arazim, Vayishaber Adonai et arzei halvanon. Vayarkidem kemo egel, Levanon v'Sirion kemo ven re'emim. Kol Adonai chotzev lahavot eish, Kol Adonai yachil midbar, Yachil Adonai midbar kadesh. Kol Adonai yecholel ayalot, Vayechesof ye'arot, uvhechalo kulo omer kavod. Adonai lamavul yashav, Vayeshev Adonai melech leolam. Adonai oz le'amo yitein, Adonai yevarech et amo v'shalom. You may be seated. Anna bechoach, bechoach, gedulat yemincha, yemincha. Tatir tzerura kabel rinatamcha, sagvenu tarenu nora. Anna bechoach, gedulat yemincha. Tatir tzerura, Tatir tzerura, kabel rinatamecha, sagvenu tarenu nora. Ya dai 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 da da, ya dai 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 da da, ya dai 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 da da, ya dai dai dai, ya dai dai yamba da, ya dai dai da da. Yada da 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 da, yada da da da. God, whose mighty hand makes nations free, release all captives. Hear our humble plea. Accept this plaintive song we offer you to praise and glorify your name. Preserve the righteous ones who seek you, who in love sing out your oneness. Guard and bless with your great goodness your people who revere your name. You, our God, who are alone exalted, turn to us. Hearken to our prayer, our thoughts revealed, laid bare before you, as your dominion ever we proclaim. Turning to Lecha Dodi, page 21. Lecha dodi likrat kala pene Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala pene Shabbat nekabela. Shamor vezachor bedibor echad hishmianu el hamyuchad Adonai echad ushemo echad l'shem ultiferet ve'elitila lecha dodi likrat kala pene Shabbat nekabela. Krat Shabbat lechuven elcha ki mekor haberacha merosh mikedem nesucha sof maaseh b'machshavati la lecha dodi likrat kahala pene Shabbat nekabela. Mikdash melech melucha kumitzei mitoch ha'chafecha rav lach shevet be'emek habacha v'hu yachamo alayichem la lecha dodi likrat kala pene Shabbat nekabela. Hitna'ari me'afarku me'livshi bigdei tifartecha mi al yad ben Yishai beit halachmi korva el nafshi ge'ala lecha dodi likrat kala pene Shabbat nekabela. Hitoreri kiva orech kumiori uri shir da beheri kavod Adonai alayich nigla lecha dodi likrat kala pene Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala yarada 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 pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala yarada 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 pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lo tevoshi velo tikalmi matish tochachi umatechemi. Bach yekesu ani ami v'nivneta ir altila. Chadodi likrat kala yarada 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 pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lechadodi likrat kala yarada 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 pnei Shabbat nekabela. V'hayu limshisa shosaich v'rachaku kol mivalayich yasis alayich Elohaich kimsos chatan al kala. Lecha dodi likrat kala yarada yanana yanana pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala yanana 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 pnei Shabbat nekabela. Yamin usmol tifrotzi et Adonai ta'aritzi. Hayad ish ben partzi v'nismecha v'nagila. Lecha dodi likrat kala yarada 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 pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala yarada 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 pnei Shabbat nekabela. Boi v'shalom ateret bala gam besimcha uvesohola. Toch emunei am segula. Boi chala Lecha dodi likrat kala yarada 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 pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala yarada yarada pnei Shabbat nekabela. You may be seated. And this week we recognize the recent passing of Lloyd Mendelson, husband of Phyllis Fraley, father of Laylee, father-in-law to Jeffrey, father of Shireen, and father-in-law to Josh, and father to Mark, and father-in-law to Susie. Also, Lloyd was the grandfather of Isabella, Sam, Alex, Asher, Max, and Ross. To the entire Mendelson family, and to the Fraley family, we say Hamad Kom, Yenachem Etchem, B'toch Sha'ar, Avilei Tzion, V'Yerushalayim. May God continue to comfort you all, along with all of the mourners of Zion and Jerusalem. Turning to page 23 for our Psalm for Shabbat. Mizmor shir liyom ha-Shabbat, tov lechodot l'Adonai, ulzamer l'shimcha elyon, ulzamer l'shimcha elyon, lehagid baboker chastecha, v'emunatcha baleilot, Ale asur v'ale navel, ale higayon bechinor, mizmor shir liyom ha-Shabbat, tov lehodot l'Adonai, ulzamer l'shimcha elyon, ulzamer l'shimcha elyon. Ki simachtani Adonai b'folecha, b'masei yadecha aranin, ma gadlu masecha Adonai, me'odam ku makshvotecha, mizmor shir liyom ha-Shabbat, tov lehodot l'Adonai, ulzamer l'shimcha elyon, ulzamer l'shimcha elyon. Tzadika tamar yifrach, ke'erez balvanon yiske, shetulim beveit Adonai bechatzrot Eloheinu yafrichu hod yenuvun beseva deshenim verananim yihu lehagid Ki Ashar Adonai Suri Velo Avla Tabo Adonai Malak Eud Lavehesh Lavesh Mikolot Maim Rabim Adirim Ishpereyam Ardir Bamarom Adonai Edotecha Ne'emnu Me'od Levetcha Nava Kodesh Adonai Le'orech Yamim. Turning again to Mourner's Kaddish, page 24. Mourners and those observing yahrzeit, please rise as you're able. Yit Kadal V'yit Kadash Shmei Rabbah V'alma divera kirute, v'amlich malchute, v'chayechon uvyomechon uvchaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru, amen. Yehei shemei rabbah mevarach, le'olam olmei almaya, yitbarach, v'yishtabach, v'yipa'ar, v'yitromam, v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar, v'yitaleh, v'yitalal, shemei dekudsha, b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tush bechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. V'oseh shalom b'imramav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. You may be seated. So a few words about our parsha. is, I look around the house, and I've got an iPhone. Ashley has an iPhone. I've got a, whatever you call the laptop. Is it iMac? I don't know what they call it these days. The iBook. I got an iBook. iPad. Yeah, we got an iPad too. In fact, I think we have 2 of them. We've got an iSpeaker. We've got all of these different Apple devices all around the house. It's incredible. And then I go into the car, and I can turn on Apple CarPlay so that my iPhone communicates with the car so I can hear the music, and I can get the text messages through voice and all this stuff. It's just Apple all over the place, and it's ubiquitous, and it's not just our house. But it seems like every other house has all of these Apple products all over the place. And it's amazing to think that just technological empire almost wasn't. Because we think about Steve Jobs being this technological genius, but he was more of the business side of things. Steve Wozniak, he was the technological genius. He was really the inventor of all of those early Apple computers. And Steve Jobs was the business mastermind. Steve Wozniak, from what I understand, he was a little bit more timid. He was a little bit more risk averse. But Steve Jobs was the visionary. He was the one who really wanted to take the risks and push the business to the next level. So without that partnership, then Apple probably wouldn't have taken off the way that it did. You had to have the talents of both complementing one another for them to be able to build something truly magnificent. And that's just one example. There are all kinds of examples of successful partnerships. The Wright brothers, or John Lennon and Paul McCartney. Any number of famous pairs, can create great things, oftentimes better than any one person on their own. And I'm thinking about that because I'm thinking a lot about, actually a thought that came to my mind this morning in thinking about Parshat Noach, where we are. So to consider what's happening in Parshat Noach with the flood, you have to go back actually a week to Parshat Bereshit, to the very beginning. Because what God does before God creates anything at all, it says that there are upper waters and there are lower waters. And before there's any creation, the whole world is just filled with some type of watery substance. Even before anything is created, we have water all over the place. And so what does God do? God actually separates out the upper waters from the lower waters. And the usual English word that we see in our Bibles is this word firmament, but it's this idea that it's almost like this supportive arch that's holding up the sky, holding up the upper waters, and the lower waters, those are the pools and the lakes and the rivers and all of the things that we know of when we think about water, the oceans. But the upper waters is this kind of mysterious element of the cosmos, and according to our creation narrative, it's held up by this firmament. So when we get to Parshat Noach, well, God is upset because the world is filled with rogues and misfits and ne'er-do-wells. The whole world is just terrible. All of these people, it's the most corrupt generation the world has ever known, and they're running rampant. And so God can't take it anymore because, as it turns out, God is a bit of a perfectionist, we learn. And God says there's nobody on the planet that is any good, except perhaps from Noah, because Noah is described as being the most righteous man who exists in his generation. And so what God does is he takes that firmament that was created in our last week's Parsha, in Parshat Bereshit, and he rips it open, and all of the waters that are being held back fall down to the earth in a deluge. It's not like these cute little stratus clouds that are just raining droplets on the earth for 40 days on end. It's actually a torrent of this celestial cosmological rain that comes from the sky, something the world has never seen before, and as it turns out, won't ever see again after this. So that's the sense of a flood that we get. And of course, Noah, he builds the teva, as it's called in Hebrew, the ark, that boat that we all think about when we think about the cartoons we might have seen as kids, with the giraffes sticking their necks out the windows, and you can imagine how stinky it is in there. But Noah, when he goes into the teva, he brings his wife, he brings Shem and Japhet, the 2 sons, and brings their wives. And there's nobody else, it's just them. The idea being that, in addition to the animals, when they come out, when the floodwaters finally recede, they're going to repopulate the earth. Noah is a righteous man. Noah is the only one that God trusts enough to be able to go out of the boat and to be able to actually perfect the world. That's the idea. What I noticed this morning is there's a total twist of irony to this entire story. Because what happens when the floodwaters recede, when Noah finally realizes that he's on dry land and he comes out from the teva, he doesn't immediately go out and start to rebuild the world perfectly, as God would hope. What he does instead is he plants a vineyard, and he grows all of these grapes, and he produces wine, and he gets drunk. That is Noah's first act after leaving the boat. And you can't blame him. You can imagine just how traumatic it must have been for Noah to be trapped inside with his family, with all of the animals, with all of the food and the feces and just the stench and just how horrible that must have been, not knowing when those waters would recede. And so you can't blame him for being traumatized, but his response is substance abuse. That's what he does. But God, for his part, well, before I actually get there, Noah's son Ham is far worse, because we learn that what Ham does is when he sees his father Noah drunk, he sees that his father has gotten so drunk he's taken off all of his clothes and he's just naked and he's blackout drunk. And what does Ham do? He actually embarrasses his father. He uncovers his father's nakedness for everybody to see, and he mocks him. And so, ironically, all of the evil that God was trying to wipe out, well, actually, he couldn't do it, because Ham represents the epitome of evil in this case, mocking his naked father. And Noah, he's not necessarily evil, but he's not doing this, he's not imbibing in a celebratory way like we might do on Shabbat or Purim or, a holiday. What he's doing is he's sloppily drunk. So it's this messy picture that we get at the end of Noah. But what you realize is that this isn't a story about failure, as I initially thought. I thought, well, gosh, did God fail? Like, is it possible to look at God and say that God failed? God tried to wipe out everything that was living because there was evil, and evil persists. Ham is evil. Noah is a drunken mess. Right? Noah fails because he was supposed to rebuild the earth, and he doesn't do it right away. He gets distracted. But what God does is God brings the rainbow. And as we learn from Rabbi Arthur Waskow of blessed memory, who passed away this last Monday, that rainbow is only half of an image. Because what it symbolizes in a lot of ways is that God is in partnership with humanity. God does God's part. Humanity has to do humanity's part in being in partnership with the divine. And God, without humanity in partnership, the whole project falls apart. And I think what God learns throughout this episode is that you can't be perfect. Humanity is not intended to be perfect. Humanity is intended actually to be flawed. So what we get is a situation where God may have started creation with the intent that everything would be perfect. As we know from last week, when God creates something, everything is good. God sees that there's light. God sees that there's the moon and the stars. God sees the animal. God sees that there are people. All of it is good. God intends for it to be perfect. But in reality, creation can't actually be perfect. Not humans, at least. Humans are inherently flawed. And so what God has to do is God has to realize, well, I'm going to be in covenant with these people. I need them because I need them to do the work. I can't force them to be perfect, but I do need them to be able to do the work on earth. And so God brings the rainbow as a symbol of that covenant. But I think what it's trying to teach us is that God has to learn with humans being inherently a little bit imperfect. And what we humans have to do as well is to realize that if God can learn to live with our imperfections, then perhaps we can also live to be imperfect and live to be comfortable with our imperfections. So with that, I'll wish you all a Shabbat Shalom, and we will turn to our Mariv service, which begins on page 28, and we'll begin in the middle of the page. And you actually may remain seated. I know, it's good exercise, but stand up if you want, I guess. But. So you actually know why, there is a reason why we stay seated during the Shema. Because there are these, really you think about this more with our weekday liturgy, but there are two dominant emotions. There's yira, this idea of being amazed at the universe, amazed that we get to be a small part of this giant universe. And a lot of that is Pesuka de Zimra, those psalms that we sing in the morning talking about the greatness of God and the greatness of the universe. But then when we get to the Shema, it's all about ahava, it's all about love. And so the reason why we sit through the Shema is to be able to distinguish between those two emotions, to be able to say that yira is over here, and now we're in an ahava mode, so that we don't actually confuse the two of those. That's why we sit during the Shema traditionally. And so we'll remain seated for the lead up to the Shema beginning on page 28. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher b'dvaro mari v'ravihim b'chokhmah v'tei yivkun ha'mashiach b'dimach. Uma'avir yom umevi laila, umavdil ben yom uven laila, Adonai tzevaot shemo. El chai v'kayam, tamidim lo chalenu le'olam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, ha'ma'ari v'ravim. Page 29. Ahavat olam Beit Yisrael, amcha ahavta, Torah u'mitzvot, chukim u'mishpatim, otanu limadeta. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu, b'shochveinu v'kumeinu, nasiach b'chukecha, v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, u'b'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed. Ki heim chayenu v'yorech yameinu, v'yorech yameinu, v'chem nege yomam v'layla, mam v'layla. V'ahavatcha al tasir mimenu le'olamim, Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael. El melech ne'eman. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai echad. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol meodecha v'hayu ha'devarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha uvlechtecha v'derech uvshokbecha uvkumecha ukshartam liot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot bein einecha uktavtam al mezuzot beitecha uv'isharecha v'hayu top of page 31. Vayomer Adonai el Moshe lemor, daber el bnei Yisrael, v'amarta aleihem, v'yasu lachem tzitzit, al kanfei v'gdehem ledorotam, v'natnu, al tzitzit hakanaf patil techelet, v'aya lachem, l'tzitzit, uritem oto, Uschartem kol mitzvot Adonai, v'asitem otam, v'lo taturu, acharei levavchem, v'acharei einechem, אשר אתם זונים אחריכם, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. אמן. הכל זאת בפרקים עלינו. Middle of page 32. Umalchuto b'ratzon kiblu aleichem, Moshe uvnei Yisrael lachanu shira, b'simcha rabba v'yamru chulam, mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, norati lot oseh fele. Malchutecha ra'uvanecha bokeh yam lifnei Moshe ze'eli anu v'yamru Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed v'ne'emar ki fada Adonai et Yaakov uge'alo mi'ad chazak mimenu baruch ata Adonai ga Yisrael. Hashki Shelter us in the shadow of your wings, O God, who watches over us and delivers us, our gracious and merciful ruler. Guard our coming and our going. Grant us life and peace now and always. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Praised are you, Adonai, who spreads the shelter of peace over us, over all his people Israel, and over Jerusalem. Ushmor tzeitenu, uvo'enu l'chaim l'shalom etav yad olam, ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, baruch ata Adonai, Al-Porei Sukat Shalom Aleinu, V'al Kol Amo Yisrael, V'al Yerushalayim. Page 34. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, V'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, V'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Vein uvein b'nei Yisrael, oti le'olam, oti le'olam. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, V'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et ha-shamayim v'et ha'aretz v'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat. V'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Uvayom hashvi'i Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash. B'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. We'll turn to the Amidah on page 35b. At Mari, we say it to ourselves, and if you're following along the liturgy, it goes through page 38, and you may be seated when you're done.
I was thinking about when I was driving home, how old she was. And so she's 48 this year, and Beth Gerson is 50. So they were 2 years apart.
If you're still davening, please take as much time as you'd like. Please rise as you're able. We'll turn to page 47 for the symbolic repetition of the Amidah. Page 47. Vayechulu hashamayim v'haaretz v'chol tzevam vayechol Elohim bayom hashvi'i melachto asher asa vayishbot bayom hashvi'i mikol melachto asher asa vayevarech Elohim at yom hashvi'i vayikadesh oto Kiva Shabbat mikol melachto asher bara Elohim la'asot. And in lieu of a minyan, we will turn now. In-person minyan, yeah. And we will turn to Kiddush for Shabbat, page 49. Actually, we need to get that poured. So, in the meantime, what's that? Yes, please. If you are at home, that one's mine. Thank you very much. If you're at home, you got a moment to go grab something, wine, or grape juice. If you have neither of the above, you can, actually, I think you can use water. What's that? Yeah, I've seen some places where water can be used in the absence of anything, any wine or grape juice. We wouldn't say Bori Priagafen in that case. You would not say Bori Priagafen. Yeah, I guess you would in that case.
Oh, come on, where's the breath of that?
I know. Okay, give us just a second. We're pouring our grape juice here in the building. Okay, and thank you, Charlotte, for being our Roche grape juice pourer. All good. Please remain standing, page 49. Sabri chaverai, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho b'yachava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron l'maaseh v'reishit. Ki hu yom tehila mikrae kodesh zecher letziat Mitzrayim ki vanu v'acharta kanu kidashta mikol ha'amim Shabbat kodshecha b'yachava uvratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. L'chaim. Okay. We will remain standing for Aleinu, page 51. Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon ha'kol, la'tet gedula li'otzer b'reishim, asanu k'gei ha'aratzom, V'lo samanu k'mishpachot adama, shelo sam chelkenu kachem, v'god aleinu k'chol hamonam. Lifnei melech malchei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu, shehu noteh shamayim v'yoser haaretz, u'moshev yikaro b'shamayim ima'ah, Ushchinatu zo begov hei meromim, Hu Eloheinu Eloheinu, Emet Malkeinu, et Bezulato, Kakatu, Betorato, Yadata Yom, Yadata Yabechashivota, Lelevavecha, Ki Adonai Hu Elohim, Bashamayim Imal, V'al haaretz mitachat ein od. How can you go with the Chanel? The Takin Olam b'malchut Shaddai v'chol b'nei B'sar. Kakatu b'toratecha Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. V'ne'emar v'haya Adonai lechal kol haaretz. Bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad. Hu shemo echad. Hu shemo echad. Nice little harmony there. That was good. I like that. Turning to Kaddish Yatom, the Mourner's Kaddish, page 52. This week, again, we are recognizing the recent passing of Lloyd Mendelson. And in Israel, our brothers and sisters are beginning Shloshim for the deceased hostages who have been returned to Israel this week, including Ari Zalmanowitz and Master Sergeant Tamir Adar. In addition to those names, we continue to hold in our hearts and walk with those observing Shloshim in memory of Carolyn Gold, mother of Susan, Howard, and Carrie, mother-in-law to Bobby, Jane, and Anita, who was also a loving grandmother of 10 and great-grandmother of 6, as well as Harel Allen Zivitz, the brother of Donald and brother-in-law to Leona, Fred Taylor, the brother-in-law of Barbara Wexler, and also deceased hostages who were returned previously, Guy Iluz, Yossi Sharabi, Dipin Joshi, and Daniel Peretz. In addition to those names, we are observing yard sites on the 3rd of Cheshvan as a community for Herman Levine, the father of Michael Levine, Leon Merlin, the husband of Dottie Merlin, William E. Shatton, the father of Karen Schmerling, Abraham Streve, the grandfather of Francis Galashoff, Renee Geller, and Amy Landrum, and Sadie Weinstein, the mother of Marlene Rinsler. And in addition to those names, we continue to hold in our hearts the family and friends of our daily minyan who have passed over the last year, including Yona Veshivia, Larry Cohen, Joe Jones, Fred Taylor, Mike Copeland, Charles Buddy Schenker, Maria Del Pilar Lopez Aristizabal, Charles Cass, Robin Prusen, Phyllis Boris, Betty Kaminsky Jacobson, Debbie Gold, Linda Bieber, Fran Drucker, Matthew Levine, Gail Ginsberg, Edith Hahn, Michelle Weiss, Jeffrey Victor, Ben Cavalier, Janet Boris, Dr. Joseph Arnold, Judith Brickman, Libby Harris, Milton Saul, Judith Berg, Serge Wayner, Andrew Morton, Elaine Bieber, Robert Fearman, Phyllis Arnold, Robert Fine, Alan Kroll, Roland Mizrahi, Bob Sharon, Eunice Stein, Joanne Singer, Ellen Savisky, Linda Schaefer, Philip Sunshine, Marty Reich, Alan Stein, Paul Hovitz, and of course, all of the victims of violence and natural disaster, wherever they may be. For those names, we'll continue to hold them in our hearts as we say the words of the Mourner's Kaddish, page 52. Mourners and those observing yard site, please rise as you're able. And if you're online, please feel free to unmute as well.
Should I rise?
Yitgadal, Yitkadash, Mirabah. Ve'alma divara kirutei, ve'amlich malchutei, v'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'v'zman kariv v'imru, Amen. Yehei shemei rabba mevarach, le'alam u'olmei almaya, yitbarach, yishtabach, v'yipa'ar, v'yitromam, v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar, v'yitalev, shemei t'kudusha, b'richu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, shbechata v'nechemata, damiran be'alma v'imru, Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, imru, Amen. Seh shalom Okay, you may be seated. So tomorrow morning, we will be back here for Shacharit at 9:30. There will be Torah study in Cavalier at 10:30. I don't remember who's leading this week, but it'll be a good one, I'm sure. We'll have Rebbe's Tish and Kiddush lunch right around noon, maybe thereafter. Importantly, tomorrow is Alan Barden's bar mitzvah celebration. So as a community, we'll be able to celebrate Alan coming to the Torah as a bar mitzvah, and he will come to the Torah, to the microphone as well as our teacher. So look forward to his sage words and celebrating him as a community tomorrow. Mincha, Mariv, Suda Shlishit, Havdalah, 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock. I feel like 90% sure it's 6 o'clock. That's what the website says, so that's what I'm going with. And until somebody says otherwise tomorrow, we will say 6 o'clock. I feel pretty good about that one, though, because Damon has been working on the website and making sure that all of the times sync up. So 6 o'clock, we'll say for Mincha, Mariv, Suda Shlishit, and Havdalah. And also after morning services, we will again have our Israel Roundtable discussion in Parodies, as we've been doing for the last couple of weeks. So lots of good stuff happening, and I wish you all Shabbat Shalom. And we will conclude with Yigdal. Also, just before I forget, thank you so much to Ken, who's sticking around late to help clean up after us. So if you see Ken, please say thank you. That whole team really works hard to keep this place clean. And to Tyler in the back for helping to keep us heard and on Zoom and all of the good tech things that make this place possible. So thank you very much. Turning to page 53, Yigdal. Yigdal Elohim ha ve'ishtabach nimtza v'yein eit el mitziuto echad v'yein yachid keyichudo nelam v'gam ein sof li'achduto ein lo demut haguf ve'eino guf lo na'aroch elav kedushato kadmon l'chol davar asher ivra Rishon v'yein reshit l'reshito hino adon olam v'chol notzar yoreh gedulato malchuto shefa nevuato nitano el anshe segulato v'tifarto lo kam b'Yisrael k'Moshe od navi umabit et emunato Toratem et Natan le'amoel hayad nevi'o ne'eman beito lo yachalifa ve'lo yadmir dato le'olamim lezulato sofevi odea setarenu mabit l'sof davar bekadmato gomer li'ish chesed kemihifalo noten l'rasha ra kerishato yishlach l'ketz yamin meshichenu lifdot mechake ketz yeshuato meitim yechael berov chasto baruch adei ad shem tehilato meitim yechael berov chasto Baruch Adei Ad Shem Tehilato. Shabbat Shalom. Baruch Tiyeh.
Shabbat Shalom, y'all.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shalom.
Good evening.
You too, Sylvia. Bye.
Thank
Shabbat
you.
Shalom,
Michael, see everybody hopefully tomorrow.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom.
Website says.
Shabbat Shalom. Have a good night.
Thank you, you too.
Shabbat Shalom, Ms. Hirschberg and Mrs. Rich.
What about me?
Oh, I forgot about you.
It's okay. I'm not offended. Good night, all. On that
You're
note.
still celebrating your birthday.
No, that's over. Thank goodness it's over. Good
Have
night.
a good night.